Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. And boxing, you can find a way to win or you can find a way to lose. Let me go ahead and make a little tweak here. Let's bubble this on over here. Okay. Well, good news. First of all, welcome to the channel, man. Hey, look. They adjusted the ranking stack at the welterweights. Look at the ring rankings, man. Spence Jr. is number 1. Crawford is number 2. I think we all agree with that. Some may have issue with who should be 1 and 2, but you know, it is what it is. They had Jerome Boots Ennis at number 3. They're good. They got Ugas at number 4. Ortiz Jr. at number 5 and Stanley Eunice at 6. Now, that right there, this is the right thing. Now, Ugas, maybe he can be at number 6, but he's proven himself. I can see why they put him over Ortiz and Stanley Eunice, okay? But that first 6, I can't see anybody having an issue with this first 6. And I want to say thanks to JD Mills. I don't know you, but man, you seem like a great human being. I enjoy the dialogue. I enjoy your comments. And I told you before, I'm going to tell you again. Let me expand this image because I want to make sure you know when I say it, you see it from me. You should do a boxing channel, champ. For those of you watching this, JD Mills and I, man, just almost think alike on a lot of things. But he's a sharp dude. He should do a boxing channel. Okay, but anyway, back to this. But JD Mills, get that channel going. This is outstanding. Then you got Thurman at number 7. Ben at number 8. I think some people are going to have a bit of an issue with Ben still kind of hanging around. But that's a sign that, you know, his situation could be clearing up. And we could see him return to the ring very soon. We know that he has a strong team behind him. And we know the WBC is going to do what's best for their pocket. So don't be surprised if Ben is fighting in January against a big name. And when I say a big name, I mean like a top 10 ranked fighter across one of the sanctioning bodies. And then you have Butaev. A lot of people don't talk about Butaev, but let me tell you, Butaev is a problem. Don't worry about that one loss to Stanley Eunice. Stanley Eunice looked like, at moments in that fight, Stanley Eunice looked like he was about to tap out. So Butaev and Stanley Eunice are just built differently. Butaev is a problem for anyone. And Avanesian kind of, you know, squeezed himself into the number 10 spot, which, you know, rightfully so. The guy was coming off of what, six fight knockout streak, got in there with Crawford, and we know what happened. So I'm glad to see this update. Looks pretty good. And to be honest with you, aside from Conor Ben, I think Butaev should be above them dudes, man, to be honest with you. But it's kind of hard to really argue with this. It doesn't look that bad to me. I actually think it looks pretty good. So let's scroll on down here. Let me move my camera out. Let me move my camera out the way. Nobody wants to see my big head, right? Matter of fact, let me just get on off the screen. Let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger for you guys. I think I'm gonna do like this, and we'll kind of. That's good enough. So let's look at the WBO. Now, you know, I've been talking a lot about the WBO, the IBF, the WBC, talking about the WBA, talking about the champions, talking about the sanctioning bodies, pushing mandatories, talking about how the landscape is shifting, talking about how it almost seems like they're trying to get Earl Spence to lose those straps because Earl Spence has a lot of weight on his shoulders with the mandatories that he has to face, talking about Terrence Crawford and who could be his mandatory, and how when it comes to Terrence Crawford, people are going to hate on him anyway because they're going to say he's fighting cherry picks or tomato cans or bums, when it's not the case. Now, I've been saying this for quite some time, and JD Mills can attest to this because we talk about it. And a clown tried to come and steal my content and take my approach to looking at these fights and do a video on it, which is a foul, but it's a compliment at the same time because I guess I'm doing something right. I have been saying that when it comes to Terrence Crawford, Virgil Ortiz, he's not going to be next up to fight Terrence Crawford because Ortiz is over there fighting Amantis Stanionis for that WBA World Welterweight title. So Virgil Ortiz getting a shot at Crawford, not going to happen. Boots Ennis is over there fighting in the IBF against the number 4 ranked Karen Chikadzian. So Jerome Boots Ennis is not going to be fighting Terrence Crawford anytime soon, okay? He's actually mandatory to Earl Spence anyway. So Earl Spence has to fight Keith Thurman, who's the mandatory, then fight the winner of Ortiz Stanionis, and then fight Boots Ennis. All right? So that's Earl Spence's 2023. So Boots Ennis is off of the Terrence Crawford radar. But we know anything can happen. But I'm just trying to keep it simple for you. Then you got Keith Thurman, right? The WBO number 3. Keith Thurman and Terrence Crawford are not going to fight because Keith Thurman is going to be fighting in April against Earl Spence. So Keith Thurman is out of there for the WBO. And then there's Alexis Rocha, which I've been saying, I've been trumpeting that for quite some time. And look at what happened. He bubbled up from the number 6 to the number 4. What's his name, who was on here in the number 4 spot, Conor Benn. Shit, Conor Benn dropped off that joker, didn't he? Yeah, he's not even ranked in the WB anymore. They gave Conor Benn the boot. And after Rocha, you got Cody Crowley, who's, I need to do a video on him. A lot of people don't know about him. That he can fight. Then Rashidi Ellis bubbled up. Rashidi Ellis is in the mix now, number 6. He wasn't even on there before. Then Santiano's on there. Blair Cobb's still there. You got Yugas. All right? But when you look at this, let's just be fair here to Terrence Crawford. He's not ducking anyone. I understand how people feel about what happened with him, Spence negotiations. But if you look at that video I just did about pay-per-views and the kind of money fighters are getting paid, they're not paying them what they're worth. They're paying them based on the type of pay-per-view sales that these promoters and these networks realistically can achieve. So fighters aren't getting paid really what they're worth, okay? And that's just the truth. Terrence Crawford going and getting that $10 million guarantee, that is what he was worth. He got it. Adrian Broner getting the money, that's what he was worth. You know, these promoters trying to give these fighters a $500,000 guarantee, percentage of the pay-per-view sales. Pay-per-view sales, you know, I don't know, do $10 million, then they throw a couple million on top of that $500,000 and $1 million guarantee. It makes it look like these promoters and networks are so great to the fighter because now the fighter makes, you know, $2.5 million, $3 million, when in reality they should be making a lot more than that. So can't fault Crawford, can't fault Broner. These guys are doing what's best for them. But I do agree, I would have liked to see Crawford fight Spence. And I do think maybe if Crawford would have waited a couple months, gotten there with Spence, maybe it would have made more sense financially. But it is what it is. So not here to talk about that. I mean, that horse been beaten so much that you resuscitated it. You know what I mean? They had a saying, beat a dead horse. Well, they managed to resuscitate that damn horse. So we'll let Mr. Ed go and gallop somewhere else. But when you look at this right now, Terrence Crawford, realistically, people, I've been saying it, shit, he could be fighting Rocha, Crowley, or Rashidi Ellis. I'm telling you, it's going to be one of those 3 guys next. Terrence Crawford fighting when he returns April, May, June, more than likely April. He's going to be fighting either Rocha, Crowley, or Ellis. All right? Forget about everyone else. Now, out of those 3, let's just be honest. Who knows Rocha? I know him. Boxing fan knows him. Anyone who's watched that fight between him and Blair Cobb will tell you, Rocha can fight. As soon as I saw that fight and it concluded, I did a video immediately about Alexis Rocha because he reminded me of Juan Manuel Marquez. That's how he was throwing that right hand. That's how he's throwing his combinations. That's how he holds his guard. I mean, he was just firing those combinations. It was just something beautiful to see him let his hands go. So Rocha is not a bum. Rocha can fight. Cody Crowley, he can fight. Rashidi Ellis, super fast hands, he can fight. So these guys against Terrence Crawford, I think that it'll be more competitive than what people think. So for Crawford next, people, I'm telling you, get that out your brain. Now, after Crawford fights with one of these 3, because I'm sure one of them is going to be his mandatory, Do not be surprised. Do not be surprised if Crawford fights Pacquiao. I've been saying this. I'm going to say it again. Don't be surprised if he fights Pacquiao. Because Crawford, he doesn't have to answer to anybody. Pacquiao doesn't have to answer to anybody. Crawford comes back, fights a mandatory, free to do what he wants. Pacquiao comes back, does his exhibition, and then he's wide open. Crawford's already said, he said, "Sir, I'm ready when you are." And I would not be surprised if Pacquiao took that fight. And they would make a lot of money, and BLK Prime is putting the money up. So just be on the lookout for that. I'm done talking about Crawford. Because him and Spence, get it out your brain. It's not happening. Now, Earl Spence. Let's look at Earl Spence's situation. We already know what Earl Spence's situation is, right? I'm going to go ahead and slide this over if you guys don't mind, right? Because we already talked about what's going on with Terrence Crawford and the damn, make this a little bigger for you, and the damn WBO. But now when you look at what's going on here with Earl Spence, when you're a unified champion, it sucks. Because he has 3 straps, which means there's going to be 3 different mandatories. And if the sanctioning bodies aren't working together, they could push all 3 mandatories on him at the same time, which is unfair. You say, no, they wouldn't do that. Yeah, well, hold your horses, man. Don't come on my channel talking crap. They tried to do this shit to Josh Taylor here recently, man. Josh Taylor lost a belt, all kind of crap. WBA, WB, people, they're just not working together. Man got stripped, go to a purse bid, couple $100,000, and he just made millions, and you want to come down and think you're going to take a purse bid for a couple $100,000? No, they take that belt. And that's what he did. He's like, take it, you want to be like that. And he was pissed. But what the WBC has been, advocating for is for all these sanctioning bodies to work together and, hey, let's talk and decide which of our guys who are going to be the mandatory and who will go first. And then decide who will be second and who will be third. And in a perfect world, that's what you'd like to see. But at the end of the day, these sanctioning bodies, they want to make money. And they want their guy to go and fight, and they want their guy to win. And you've seen a breakdown as far as a breakdown in the synergistic efforts between these sanctioning bodies. They're just not gelling the way you'd like to see it. But right now, as far as Spence is concerned, you can see that those guys aren't working together. But at the same time, they're not forcing two or 3 mandatories on Spence at the same time. They've just identified them. So it's like placeholders have been put out there. So Earl Spence, placeholder for when he returns in April. Keith Thurman. Earl Spence, a few months, within 120 days. Well, hold on. Let me say this correctly. I don't want to say it wrong. After he fights Thurman, placeholder for Earl Spence to fight the winner of Stanley Ortiz. Now, 120 days after that, and this is where it gets a little murky, right? That's where Boots Ennis should come into play. But I want to say that again. Earl Spence and Thurman. Then after that, it should be the winner of Stanley Virgil Ortiz. And after that should be Boots Ennis. But the way this the IBF, the way that the information been delivered to us is 120 days after Earl Spence's mandatory, right? So it makes it sound like Earl Spence fights a mandatory for the WBC in April, which would be Keith Thurman. Then he has 120 days after that to make the fight with Boots Ennis. And this is what sucks, right? Because it's a bit ambiguous. Now you're putting Earl Spence in a position where it could be like what Josh Taylor was in, where you're forcing the WBA mandatory and the IBF mandatory on him at the same time. And that is where I talk about sanctioning bodies only looking out for their own interests, and Earl Spence getting put in a position where he'll be forced to vacate a belt. And that is not right. Now let's say the sanctioning bodies decide to work together. Earl Spence would fight Thurman in April. I don't know, 90, 120 days later, he would fight the winner of Stanley Ortiz. Before the end of the year, fight Jaron Ennis. Now, Jaron Ennis is fighting here this Saturday, the 7th of Jan. Earl Spence fighting in April. Then he's going to fight for the defending WBA later that year. Jaron Boots Ennis is free to fight. So what you could see is Jaron Boots Ennis returning middle of the year And this is where we have to now start looking at, right? Let me minimize this for you guys. I apologize. Right? Let's really look at, for Jaron Boots Ennis in his mid-year fight, okay? Because Earl Spence is going to be busy. Terrence Crawford could be available, but I think Crawford is going to fight Manny Pacquiao. I really think Crawford is all about getting close to retirement. He's got a big family. He's going to do what he wants, and he's all about the money. And Pacquiao, whether you guys want to agree or not, he brings more money than Boots Ennis. So, realistically, let's just go down the list and see who could Boots Ennis fight mid-year and to keep him busy. Can't fight Virgil Ortiz. I think Virgil Ortiz will be too banged up if he loses to Stan Eunice. They're going to, I call that a mash-up, crash-up. They're going to damn near kill each other. Keith Thurman, he won't be ready. He'll just be finished fighting Spence. Rocha, we got to see if he's going to end up fighting Crawford in April, so he probably won't be available mid-year. Crowley could be available. Rashidi Ellis could be. It just depends on if Rocha, Crowley, and Ellis end up being the mandatory for Crawford. Then you got Santillan, Blair Cobb, and then Ugas. So Ugas could be a mid-year fight for Boots Ennis. Now let's look at the IBF. Ortiz, Ennis is about to beat this guy, Chagzian. Thurman, Ivan Golub, Evanesyan. I doubt Boots Ennis will fight Evanesyan. Rashidi Ellis. Okay, and let's look at the WBC. Thurman, Ortiz, Boots. You go Ugas again. If he gets his blurred vision, double vision rectified, could be fighting Ugas. Crowley's name popping up. This right here would be a rough fight for Ennis. I don't care what you say. Kavaliauskas can fight. I don't care what you say. That could be a good fight. But why isn't Butaev on here? Or he could fight Butaev too. There we go. Now we're getting over to Butaev. I'm like, where the hell is Butaev? Butaev. So really, when you look at this, I think for Jaron Ennis, it's going to be Butaev, Ugas, Crowley, Kavaliauskas. Butaev, Ugas, Crowley, or Kavaliauskas. That's what I think. Now, if he wants an easy fight, he'll come out there and fight Blair Cobb. But that's just something to stay busy, and that probably would be the logical choice. But if he's trying to prove that there's no tune-ups, that's the thing now. No tune-ups, right? No cherry picks. They just come right. That's what these fighters is coming out here and going in there with those lions. Hey, he may have to look at Ugas or Kavaliauskas. Now that's just me. So that being said, let me bring this back over because I'm about to end this video, right? You guys leave your comments below and let me know what you think. But that's how I see it. So we got Crawford, who's accounted for, right? He could be accounted for the whole year. You got Ortiz accounted for, Stan Eunice accounted for, Thurman accounted for, Boots Ennis accounted for, Spence accounted for. Okay? The first quarter of the year. But once you get to the middle of the year, it's going to be interesting to see who doesn't have anything going on, who's available. And when you look at it, Boots Ennis is going to definitely be available mid-year. The other guys are going to be just coming off fights, probably not ready to get in the ring. But Boots Ennis is going to have to find an opponent for the middle of the year. And that, I think, is the next talking point. What is Boots Ennis going to do if he has to wait to after Earl Spence defends his WBC, then WBA, and then looking at the IBF? What does Boots do in the interim? And that's the conversation. And I'm going to talk about that in my next video. I got to go pick my boys up. Y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans. Appreciate the support. And always in the breeze.